Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to be having a discussion slash debate. I've got my glasses on. I want to be. What's that word you said to me? Shaka shaka.
Recommended.
It's for all my Nigerian
You look
followers.
beautiful, by the way. You look very nerdy. I like it.
Thank you. Sometimes it's nice to look a bit more smarter than I am. But yeah, we don't need to. Let's not get into that. But anyways, guys, today we're gonna be. Oh, introduce yourself, by the way. Tell them who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Ebun. I'm from Ayo and Ebun Entertainment channel, and I'm an African YouTuber alongside with my sister Ayo. We make videos about Africa and we share them on our YouTube channel. Yes, that's who I am.
Amazing. So I'm gonna put the link to their YouTube channel on my description box below so you can check them out. Alright, so let's get into it. So we are going to be having a discussion about if we think that Africans are doing enough to contribute to Africans in the diaspora are doing enough to contribute. And I've split it up into 5 different sections, and we're going to start off by talking about what we do as content creators. So let me break the ice by saying that, as content creators, African content creators, do you feel like we are spreading awareness on Africa in a positive way?
Okay, thank you for that question. When we talk about Africa, there are so many stereotypes about Africa. That Africa is poor, Africans have a lot of diseases and things like that, or Africans have a lower IQ, and Africans live with monkeys and lions around. And these stereotypes are from the media. Because that is what the media keeps showing. So these things are forming stereotypes in people's minds. So to change these perceptions, to break these stereotypes, we have to use the same channel, but in the opposite direction. And that is media also. And that's what content creators are supposed to do. So as African content creators, we have a lot to do.
Yeah.
To put out the positive part of Africa out there. I know there's so much negativity, like when you turn left, right, and center, you see so much negativity about Africa. But we as content creators, we have a lot to do. But in my opinion, I don't think there are so many African content creators. And the ones that there are, I don't think some of them are even making content to promote Africa. Some of them are just doing stuff for personal blogging and things like that. But if we talk about channels that are making content to promote Africa, to enlighten people about the positive part of Africa, I don't think there's so much, and that's what we really need.
And adding on to those that are African that don't make content about Africa, well, you don't have to, but it's they might have this idea in their mind where it's like, oh, well, this is not going to be accepted by the Western society. We're not going to be seen as popular people. We're going to be seen as nerds, or, who cares about Africans? So that's why they would rather conform to the mainstream trends, if you get what I mean. You've got you'd rather be a consumer to the mainstream world and obviously capitalize off of that. You will get more popularity, but it's I believe, in my opinion, it's better to stand out in your own way, which represents you, rather than doing what everyone else is doing to fit in. And I feel like that it's a thing. It's a lot of young African diasporas are conflicted, especially someone like myself. I was once conflicted. I was stuck in both worlds. I was like, okay, which way do I go? Do I go to the Western way, which is popular, so I can, just be like everyone else? Or should I, represent where I'm from in a positive light and show people that there's more to Africa than lions, tigers, bears, and plantain and whatever, there is more. And, I feel like it's important to obviously add your own twist to it. What it's important to be yourself at the same time, but it's also important to represent. And I feel like it is contributing. Representation to me is contribution. It doesn't matter, contributing isn't always about sending money or, doing something that has to be that is financially whatever, like, raising awareness, representation is contributing, it's
Yeah,
coming.
you don't have to be a content creator to represent Africa in the positive light. Just our attitudes alone is enough. Because you see, especially for Africans in diaspora, we are around white people or brown people, let's say people in Europe or in Asia, Africans in this continent. We're around people from a totally different culture, from a totally different race. So the way we behave and the way they perceive us is enough to even break the stereotypes. You can see something on TV that is so negative, but when you come in contact with someone from that place and you see something totally different, you're being convinced that, oh, Africans are not like this, that means the media is showing Africans in a negative light. So our attitudes alone is more than enough to even start breaking the stereotypes.
Is being African now a trend? What do you think?
Nice one, very nice. I think to an extent, yes, because when we say being an African, we're talking about the African culture, like the braids and the clothes. And you see that this is becoming trendy now. People are making braids. That's because a lot of white people are now making braids. So that is trending. And then you see people that are not Africans wearing African clothes like danshiki and things like that, or people see Chris Brown wearing danshiki and they're like, wow, that is perfect. Or they see Beyonce with braids and African wears and they're like, oh, this is so cool.
But when they see someone wearing it, but if they see someone, I don't want to use the word regular, or well, that's not like when they see the original source wearing that, they're gonna be like, okay, it's just an African girl with Ghana braids or whatever, But when you see Kim Kardashian, I mean, I don't think there's nothing wrong with non-Africans wearing African attire or African hairstyles. Just don't say it's yours. Don't appropriate it, Because I feel like I remember one time Kim Kardashian had her hair braided and she must have said they're boho braids or something like that, and how it originated from somewhere where it's not, and a lot of people got shook. They were like, girl, no, you did not say that. And I feel like it's important for people.
You can respect the culture and take elements of the culture, but you don't have to appropriate it.
And what's funny is that people in Africa, well, from what I've seen online from people's feedback, they actually praise that. They're like, oh, Kim Kardashian or Beyonce or Rihanna is wearing so that means it's cool, which I think is sad, because they're using celebrities or whatever for validation. They're going to be like, oh, now that someone is wearing something that belongs to us, we're going to be accepted by the world, which I think is a very bad ideology to have, because you wearing it should be enough. You should be like, yes, this was made by my local tailor, it represents where I'm from. But when you see someone wearing a secondhand copy in America, it's suddenly better, which I feel like is a very bad mindset to have.
Being African should not be a trend. That is who we are. That is who we would always be. So it should not be a trend. The thing about trends is that it happens for a while and then it dies down. So if we make being African a trend, that means we'll feel cool for just a period of time, and then we go back to our shells, feeling how we've always been like. So being African should always be how we are. We should always be proud to be African. It shouldn't be a trend.
Exactly. Okay, so the third point, we've kind of touched on it. It's is representation contributing. So we've kind of touched on that already, and I say that in a sense where people think that contributing is, sending money, building houses and stuff like that. How do you feel like, as a content creator, with the content you do, how do you feel like that will benefit those that are in Africa? Because obviously I can imagine you're doing it to educate non-Africans and raise awareness, but that's one thing. But with what you do, how do you feel like that's playing a part in the continent itself?
Yeah, the content we make are quite different, like different stuff. Like you said, it also helps to raise awareness about Africa. But the truth is, this is not just for non-Africans. This is not just for Caucasians, because as Africans, we don't even know about our continent.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know about other countries. So when we make content, we try to talk about several countries in our video. So as a Nigerian, if you're watching, you can learn about Eritrea, you can learn about Somalia, you can learn about Kenya, and that is helping you be a true African, to know about other parts of Africa, and it's helping to raise awareness also about other parts of Africa, what is going on in those places, and facts about those places, things like that.
Yeah, because obviously there's like, everyone already has this perception of Africa already. Like, they know what to expect. Oh yeah, you go there, it's very hot, it's sunny, whatever. Yeah, we know that. And I feel like, this is my opinion, I feel like the west of Africa is more mainstream and portrayed more. And I feel like you touched on an important point. It's also important to talk about the countries that aren't given enough recognition. Like, for example, where I'm from Eritrea. Nobody knows where that is. Nobody. Like, I made a video asking people, where is it? It was like, some guy said, I don't know him. Can you imagine? I said, do you know what Eritrea is? No, I don't know who he is. I was like, oh my God. It was hilarious, but I was like, but then again, you can't really blame them, because obviously some countries, it's actually the fault of the actual nations. They're not doing enough for their country to be known. So, we can't really blame Western people for not knowing them, because the countries themselves, they're not, it's not that they're not being portrayed in a positive way. They're not doing anything positive for it to be portrayed in a positive way to the West. We don't want to go too much into that stuff, but yeah, you can also look at it on that angle. Do you feel like it's okay for non-Africans to contribute / represent Africa?
In my opinion, I feel it's high time that Africans tell our own stories, because in the past we've seen non-Africans talking about Africa, like they come to Africa and take pictures and make documentaries, but you can feel the bias in this stuff. They are saying it from their own point of view, and there's this thing that always happens whereby if non-Africans come to Africa, most of the time they just want to portray the bad side. Take pictures of starving children, take pictures of very underdeveloped places. And these are things that they would not do in their countries. If they wanted to make documentaries, they would not want to show the bad sides of their countries.
Absolutely.
Everywhere in America, in the UK, everywhere there are slums. But nobody is really putting the cameras in these places.
Exactly.
But when these Caucasians or non-Africans come to Africa, that's what they always want to show light on.
Because I remember I made a video one time.
High time Africans start making content about Africa.
It's sad.
It's time to start telling our stories.
It's sad because one time I made a video. It's on my channel. It's titled "The Africa That the Media Don't Show You." So I was showing people in public like beautiful architecture and buildings and cities in Africa, and I was asking them, "Do you know where this is?" The answers I was getting: Abu Dhabi, New York. This. I'm like, honey, this is Lagos. Like, this is Addis Ababa. Like, what's going on here? Why don't you do that? Oh, and some girl was like, oh, I thought there was only like lions and frogs and stuff like that. I was like, well, there's lions and frogs in well, not lions, but there's stuff like that in Europe as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah,
it
when they see a good picture, it's always equated to the West, and when it's a bad picture, it's always equated to Africa. We also did a similar video, and we took some pictures of slums in America,
mm,
and we took some pictures of cool places in Africa, and we were showing people this slums, and none of them said America. None of them. They were saying African countries
it's crazy.
because when they say America or when they say European countries, they don't equate that in their minds, and that is because of what they're seeing on the media.
Hmm.
When you turn on the media, you always see the good part of the West, but when they're talking about Africa, they're either talking about the lions and monkeys there, or they're talking about a starving child that is about to die.
It's not even that. It's like these people that live in the West, like these people that live in Europe or America, like they've seen the slums where they live. They know what the slums look like in America and Europe, but they refuse to accept that, I live in the richest part of the world. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a slum. In their head, it will be
Yeah,
like, yeah, but that's like, it doesn't matter if there's a slum. Like, in the media, no one shows this part of America or whatever. So they have it programmed in their mind. Like, they'll know that there's slums.
programmed.
They'll know that there's poverty, but it's just down to the ideology. They're like, okay, the West is portrayed as heaven on earth, so therefore I refuse to believe that this part of the world exists. Like,
Yeah,
especially like where I live in London, it's like in every single neighborhood, there's always like the middle class bit and the rich bit. Like, there's no such thing as like an area where there's just rich only. Like, it's divided in two. And you kind of like refuse to believe that, wow, this is Europe, but when you see Africa, you'll be like, nah, that ain't Africa, like it's sad. It's so sad, honestly.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really sad.
And the final point which I wanted to touch on is it worth moving back home and contributing instead of being here? Let me start off with this. I feel like it is important because I feel like the market is still very open back in Africa, especially if you're someone that's lived in the West and, is a consumer of all of these massive corporations and, everything. Like, you're a product of it. You've seen it. You grew up with it. And when you've got that in your head, you're like, okay, if I go to Africa, what if I do that here? And build something
Yeah,
rather than putting money into the pockets of people that have already done it. They're fine. But when you go to Africa, it's like, okay, they're worshipping these corporations in the West as well. Why don't you make something there for them so they can worship, or not worship, but be a consumer of something in their homeland? Like, what do you think of that?
yes, Africa is a fertile soil. Like, there's not so much, but there's so much that can be put in place. Like you said, in the West, there's so much we've seen already that they have in terms of technology and things like that. And these things are lacking in Africa. So imagine as an African diasporan coming back home and setting up that stuff, meeting the needs of people. One,
Yes.
you would make money out of it, and two, you would also satisfy people.
And they'll trust you more because they know that you come from the West. Yeah.
And they'll trust you more
Yeah.
also. Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing is to be also involved in the political aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Because in as Africans, like, we have a long way to go in developing our individual countries,
Mm-hmm.
and we can only develop it from experience. Africans in diaspora, we already know what the standard is like. We already know the basic amenities and how the basic amenities should be put in place. And one of the ways we can do this is also to join politics and to be involved in changing our environment,
Mm-hmm.
our country. And one of the powerful ways to do that is through politics. Of course, you can be an entrepreneur and provide some basic needs to people, but I feel politics is also a very powerful tool.
But I feel like Africans in diaspora, they're so scared of politics. Like, when they hear politics, they're like, no, like, I don't. that like that's not for me. But they don't understand that that is one of the most pivotal ways in order to change a country, not just in the political aspect, but development, the economy, the social side of everything. You know, politics is like it's the root of everything. You know, it's the person that's running the country that, you know, makes the decision, you know, that makes the law. But I feel like because obviously the political aspect of Africa, the politics in Africa is still has a long way to go in every single country. You know, it it's awful, it's sickening, but you know, a long way to go. And I feel like that when the diaspora understand that, you know, shying away or being afraid to talk about politics because they're scared of what people think, when they understand that that is actually the root of everything, they'll start looking at things differently. Because it's like with, like, you know, for some people they're afraid to even speak about it at home, because obviously, like, in some countries, you know, you're not allowed to express your political opinion. So they want to be like, okay, look, I want to be able to go back to my country, so let me not open my mouth or whatever. But, you know, the only way change comes is through you. If you want to see change, you've got to be that change. So instead of you saying, oh, I wish I could improve things, I wish I could have the power to... But silence is the biggest killer. That's what I believe, and I believe that your silence can kill people. But yeah, you know, it's always good to, you know, overall, I feel like in terms of contributing, diasporas contributing to Africa, it's not about doing something practical like sending money or, you know, starting up a company there. It starts through awareness and representation, you know, showing people what they don't know, and then they will obviously be educated by that, and they'll be like, okay, let me go there. And when they go there, they'll see it for themselves. And I feel like that's one of the key ways to contribute.
Exactly.
Yep.
You said it, yeah. I totally agree. Talking about Africans in diaspora, I just want to say finally that we have a lot to do. And we should, for those that are doing stuff already, you have a YouTube channel, we have a YouTube channel. We should keep up the good work. I know it's not easy, but these are stuffs that are already on the internet. And one day, several minds will be changed towards Africa and other Africans in diaspora also. We have a lot to do in making Africa better.
How do you deal with the criticism you get from Africans with what you do? I want to hear it.
You know, some of the videos, sometimes it can be so discouraging because you feel like you're trying your best, you're putting out your best and contributing your own quota to make Africa better. And then you hear some Africans criticizing you, like, why are you doing this? And stuff like that, sending you messages, like, why are you doing this? Someone was telling us that we should not do stuff like that we should do more videos like comedy and things like that. I'm like, there's a place for everything. Comedy is good, but I just feel that a lot of people are not talking about this, and that's what we want to talk about. So it's really sad when you hear Africans actually backlashing.
For me, it's like, it's kind of the same thing, but they'll be like, oh, the fact that you're born in Europe, you shouldn't be a spokesperson. And that's the irony of it. It's like, okay, if you were born in Africa, why don't you do it if you're attacking me? Like, if anything, like, it's I think it's so much more refreshing to see someone that was born in Europe doing it, because it shows, you know, that they're aware that there is more to it than that. So yeah, it's sad. It's like, oh, you were born in London. What do you know apart from eating burgers and chips and whatever? I'm like, you will be surprised. You will be surprised, and you're gonna learn today.
I think a lot of these people that say these kind of things are probably people that have not been outside Africa. They don't know what it's like to be an African abroad.
They literally think that we are ignorant, like we don't know anything. like we just all work, because like obviously like there is things that we don't know about Africa that Africans know only. Of course, that's normal, but
Yeah.
there's no harm in talking about. There's no harm in talking about it. If anything, they should appreciate it. But they're like, oh, you don't know anything. You shouldn't be a
Exactly. As long
spokesperson.
as we're making a contribution, that's the most important.
Exactly. And there's obviously
And a
always good
positive
feedback as
contribution at
well,
that.
you know. I feel like the ratio of good feedback and bad feedback is much more high, you know. There's people that truly appreciate it. Like there's people that are like, thank you for showing this side, you know. When people go to Africa, all they do is take pictures of the nasty bit just because that's what is a social norm accepted by the world. But yeah. We could talk about this all day, but you know, it's been a pleasure talking about this topic. I feel like it's something very
Thank you
important.
so much, Helen.
Thank you for joining me today, and yep, make sure you check out Ayo and Ebun's YouTube channel. It'll be on my description box below, and yep, I will see you on the next video. See ya!
Yeah, we have a big of you on our channel also.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, it's embarrassing now because I tricked you guys so much. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. Anyways,
yeah. Funny.
It's embarrassing because I was teaching you guys words that are not nice, but your subscribers will. I'm sure you have some Eritrean or people that speak Tigrinya that follow you that will correct you. But yeah, we'll see when the video's out.
Okay.
But anyways, it's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.